All right, we're live on the air now. So, this is going to be a live stream. There's no editing, so if you're watching this later on, just know that it's going to start kind of slow, so you may want to skip like maybe 10 or 15 minutes in because we're kind of setting up and getting used to what we got going on here, and the audience is building right now. So that's why these types of streams always start so slow. What is that? Oh, that's my see, this is what I'm talking about. We got stuff going on all over the place here. All right, I gotta mute that somehow. Come on. There we go. Okay. So as I was saying, this is going to start off kind of slow just because it's building the audience and it's a completely live stream. This will be a Q&A, and we're going to have like just a straight up chat. Like if you want to talk to us, check out the live chat. I see Pat Brady's in there. Ron's is in there. Rob is in there. Sinister Survival. I don't know who that is, but his name kind of scares me a little. So I'm going to let that be known. So yeah. Basically, guests that are on here with us right now, we got Corey from B-Boy Tech Report, and Beat People, which is another podcast that we both are on, and try to keep people happy. So we also have Winston with us, and Winston is our he's the resident bourbon master. Now, I know people who watch my channel and watch our different podcasts would think that I'm the bourbon master. You would be wrong. Winston is the true bourbon master. So I like to shout out Balcones Fine Whiskey out of Texas, and he's also a synth connoisseur, synth nut, and music maker as well. Now, here's the interesting thing about all of this is, so I have a DeepMind 12, and behind me you can see the Matrix Brood as well. So if you have questions about that, we'll kind of dabble into that a little bit as well. But right down here in front of me is DeepMind 12. I will be adjusting the camera so that we have a nice tight shot of the DeepMind 12. Corey over there, he also has a DeepMind 12 sitting in front of him. Yeah, so right, Winston, however, does not have a DeepMind 12 sitting in front of him. He is the guy who...
Sad day.
Yeah. So Winston has had a chance to touch it at KnobCon, but that was it, right?
Yeah. I had about 10 minutes on it.
So basically Winston is going to help out with kind of asking questions that maybe people want to know who don't have one in front of them, and that sort of thing. And on top of that, we also have the live chat. So we're all going to be kind of checking out the live chat. So definitely, if you're watching this, pop out your little live chat window, talk to us, keep us company, that kind of thing. Let me, Corey, what's been going on in your world? I got to share the link around a little bit. So,
it's all good. Not much, man. I mean, just looking forward to digging into the DeepMind. I got it. What was it? Monday? Yeah, I got it Monday, and so I've had all but enough time to just turn it on, go through some of the presets. And as I was getting through some of the presets, I realized that I was inspired. It was inspiring me to just, step back from the feature set for a minute and make some music. So I started making beats and doing some stuff. And I still want to dig in to really, I want to get a good idea of how the voices sound without effects, because the effects are stunning. Like, is there another keyboard out there with these type of effects, or the level
no. Like, I'll just outright say no. Because I look around and there's some really powerful digital synths out there by some really cool people. The Solaris by John Bowen comes to mind. But even with that stuff, there's nothing that has this kind of depth of effects, which is crazy. That's what's been messing my head up lately too. I've just been kind of reading the manual. I put the manual on my iPad and I've been going through that and then just reading all of that stuff. Which one thing I will say ahead of time, we do not have the Mac editors and we don't have the iOS editors yet. I keep pressuring the guys over at Midas every day, like, yo, let me get that. And they assure us that it's coming out very soon. So that stuff should be launching probably any day now, to be honest with you. So
yeah, that would be dope. I'll be looking forward to that. I was gonna say the one thing I was like, I wish it had inputs, and that's mostly because of the dope effects that's in it, and the filter sounds so good. So on my Instagram, I think I showed you, Ken, probably in a text picture, but I put it on Instagram. I showed that Mold Machines F106 filter, the Juno filter that they made. It's broken, so I'm getting it fixed. But when I get it back, I definitely want to compare it to the filter on the DeepMind 12, because it's literally just a little pedal and it has CV on the back of it too. And it's a Juno F106. So I'm looking forward to comparing the two of those. I
had totally forgotten that you had that thing, man. That's a really cool box, because they also had the Wasp filter.
I had that at one point too. Yep.
Oh, you don't have the Wasp one anymore?
No, I don't have it anymore, because you know what? I had it for review and it was like so long term that like
I got you.
Mold Machine said, yo, I'll send you one of the new revisions, but we got a guy there in the United States that his broke. So if you could help us out and send him yours, then we'll send you one of the new revisions. The new revisions never got done. So I'm just, that was it for me in the Wasp filter.
That's all right.
But I'm gonna get the Wasp filter by Dopever.
Yeah. That thing looks cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in that. And so just to kind of like do a quick idea as far as what we got going on here. Let me I'm gonna switch to my camera view here. This is basically what we'll call this the Flux crotch shot. Let's try to move this thing around a bit. Yeah, man. So basically, I will say that I have had very little time to actually play on this thing so far, because I've been busy with other things. And it is holiday season, so you got that whole level of things going on. But first off, let's test the audio real quick. And Corey, you want to play yours for a second? Let's see if we can hear it.
I don't think you can hear it because
you don't have it running through your setup.
Yeah, it's going through my setup, but this thing, it'll only take output from like the mic output. I don't know. It's the
gotcha.
The stream. Yeah,
I basically run through I'm running through a mixing board, and then that goes into the stream. So that's how I'm able to do that.
So I have a basic functional question already.
Yeah.
Using the sliders versus knobs, do you like it?
I like sliders for a few different reasons, and I like knobs for a few different reasons. But in this layout, it's really nice because one of the main things that I wanted directly in front of me in my setup was a MIDI controller. And I didn't find any MIDI controllers that I liked, that had the layout that I liked, that weren't like crazy deep, I really just wanted a few MIDI controlled faders and keys. I don't really care about pads because I have Machine and, lots of other pad controllers. But I wasn't really able to find anything. I got the Keylab 49, and that was actually really nice. So the faders on here are cool because while you're playing, it's really easy to just kind of like push a fader.
I guess
you know what I mean? Like
a little more one-handed.
Yeah. You can do like this one-handed operation where you're hitting keys and using the fader at the same time, which is really cool. Which on a knob, that's much more difficult. And it keeps everything in like this compact layout that's like right there.
I dig that. It's kind of linear, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
there
word I
is
was
some
just gonna
weird
say.
stuff too, though. There's some weird stuff that I found out about the layout, and let me try to move the camera a bit. I want to show this because Corey and I were both talking about this the other day. Let's see if we can kind of. So over here, you've got your pitch up and pitch down buttons, right? So these are your octave buttons, excuse me, right? So on most synths, they're usually like right next to each other, you know? But on here, it's like they're separated. Like one is to the left of the pitch wheel and one is to the right of the mod wheel. And then in between
you have the
you got
portamento and the volume in the middle of it.
Yeah, you got volume in the middle and portamento in the middle.
So it does take a little getting used to. I'll tell you what I did, Ken, when I first wanted to, I was like, okay, I'm going to octave down. And you see, while that shot is on, hit the octave up and down. And if you all look right above those buttons, you'll see the light, the LEDs that tell you where you're going. Yeah. So because I saw those LEDs, I naturally expected that one light that's on right above it, like that's the on and off, tap, hold, and edit. Yeah. I naturally expected just out of, that's what the lights are. I figure that's what the octave up and down were.
Yeah, and you know what? That kind of, yeah, I can see that. I mean, technically, so that is your ARP sequencer section. And, but yeah, I could totally see how that would, kind of throw you for a loop. The good thing about it being separated like this is that you won't accidentally hit down when you mean up and vice versa. That's the good thing about it. Once you get used to it, you're going to be like, oh, well, okay, no big deal. So I'm checking out the chat here. Sweetwater did the 20-minute video. Was that the one from KnobCon?
From KnobCon?
Yeah, because I was actually there when they shot that video, which was cool. Daniel Fisher, real nice guy, and so that was pretty cool to kind of,
Ear Monkey makes a good point. He said that he's saying that he thinks that the faders will make it a little easier to dial in quickly. And then actually that there's some truth to that. I'll tell you, I have the ARP Odyssey. So that thing doesn't have knobs. And so I went through that whole adjustment period dealing with the ARP Odyssey, but it's quick. You get used to it quick. Now I'll tell you something like the ARP Odyssey, but then if you go to something much smaller, like the Roland boutique boxes, what is it, the Jupiter one?
Well, those things are crazy small.
It's crazy. You can't even that the sliders is just, it's crazy to have sliders on something like that. Though every one of those need knobs, but then it would have to be a little bigger for the Jupiter one. Yeah. However, here I think that these are kind of laid out just so that they're close enough, but they're they're far enough. It feels good. It wasn't a lot to get used to. Actually, I found it felt like messing with a DJ mixer when I was if you look on my YouTube channel, the B-Boy Tech Report channel, I put up like my first jam that I did, and really all I was doing, I had made a beat and put bass, and so it's a little track, but then I have the DeepMind going, and I'm using the filter and the res a lot to kind of make this rhythmic sequence of how this kind of crescendo. And actually I found that really easy. It felt like I was on a DJ mixer. It didn't feel awkward or uncomfortable. And two, that I could use one hand to do both of the faders. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't be able to do that with knobs though. Yeah.
And so I see somebody commenting here about the 106. The 106 was actually the first analog synth that I ever had in my setup. I kind of miss it and I kind of don't, because it was big. The LFO on mine was completely unruly. I mean, at the time it was like basically that, turntables, and an MPC 2000, and a few bits and bobs here and there. And the guys that would come into the lab when we'd start making beats, they used to joke and call it the helicopter synth, because anytime anybody ever touched it, the LFOs would go crazy. They're like,
that's messed up.
But this one, I don't have that issue. So, but yeah, so a couple of things that I want to address. First, I'm gonna get my my nitpicks out of the way before I do anything. Okay. First nitpick that I really have is the faders do have a little bit of wobble to them. Now, comparatively speaking, it's not as bad as some other faders that I've felt. But comparing it to, say, the Keylab 49 from Arturia, the Keylab faders are like rock solid. You don't have any wiggle in them.
That's true.
The Matrix Brute, tiny bit of wiggle to them, not much. System 1M and Matrix Brute faders feel very similar. Okay. The ones on this, it feels like the stem is longer. So it's not that it's weak or anything. It's just that it's a longer stem inside of there. So
yeah,
it has
that's
some
the
wiggle
same that I thought. Right, there's a little bit of
Here, I'll pull the cap off.
Yeah, the space between the cap and the actual face of the keyboard, I think, is that is long.
So yeah, I got the cap off right now, and I'm gonna kind of wiggle it just so you guys can see it. So it's just a little wiggle there. It's not a lot. And the fader itself is thick metal. It's not like a real thin metal that you could bend easy or anything. But it's something that I want to point out because out of the entire build, like I'm really trying to nitpick. I'm trying to say, all right, well, what are the haters gonna say? Like what's the few things that you could really complain about? So there's a little bit of wiggle there. What was the other thing?
Could I just interject and maybe suggest that perhaps there's a tolerance of wiggle built into that particular slider? Maybe.
That's a good
point.
Yeah.
Maybe it's meant to be a little loose so that it can withstand, kind of more wear.
Yeah, so it has a little give.
It's so I was kind of looking at
it's kind of like a preference thing, but I'm wondering if that's like intentional in design.
I was looking at some of my other synths, and here, let me show you something. Let me grab this real quick. I got a micro brute right here. So here's the micro brute faders, right? And they do wiggle, but they don't wiggle much. But part of that, I think, let me pull the cap off. I mean,
I'm sorry. Somebody in the chat just said same reason human skulls aren't fully fused at birth.
I mean, like there's a little bit of wiggle in these too, but it just feels like I don't know. They just feel a little bit tighter to me. I don't know. It's weird. It's not.
What, as you're pulling that cap
break.
As you're pulling that cap off on the micro brute, is that the micro brute? Yeah, the micro brute. I noticed that the caps are closer to the faceplate.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say. Yeah, the caps on these are really close to that, so that with that wiggle, even if it does wiggle and touch the edge, I don't know how well you can see it because this thing's white, but yeah, it'll stop it. And in fact, I think I actually talked to Arturia about that. I had kind of mentioned that in one of my interviews. And they were like, yeah, that's one of the reasons they did that was because in like suitcases and luggage and all, they didn't want it breaking. And that makes total sense,
Yeah, too rigid, more fragile.
Yeah, so let me get kind of down low with the camera angle so you guys can see this a little bit better. And again, this is like for the real nitpicky kind of people, so which I know plenty of synth guys are that. So that's about as far as you're going to go. Right. Which so again, it's not bad. It's just,
What's it's also worth mentioning you actually when we talked about it over text, you reminded me like, but ain't that that's the same as the ARP though, right? And I was like, oh yeah, I got the RP. I haven't I recently a couple months ago, I don't know how long ago, I put it in the box because I'm thinking about selling it or trading.
I think the ARP ones wiggle more personally.
They do. I think they do.
You'll have to yank that out and you can let us know, but I think that the ARP ones wiggle a good bit more. Trying to think what other faders in here I have. But yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal. Like I said, I don't have any feeling like it's going to break or be an issue. I'm just letting you know that from a purely aesthetic standpoint, when you touch it, that's how it feels, They say some low pro fader caps from the Soundcraft desks. Yeah, I don't know what will how well that will fit with the spacing in between. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. That might be worth checking out. The only other thing that so far that I'm kind of like, oh, I don't like how that feels is, to me, the pitch and mod wheel, they're kind of like this hard plastic, and they're kind of slick. Like they're not very grippy. Okay. So like, I don't know. I would have liked a little bit of rubber coating or something, maybe some silicone or something on them.
Yeah, they're hard plastic. They're rigid. They're like what you would think the rubber wheel would be, but they're hard plastic nonetheless.
Yeah. So it's like a hard, shiny plastic, and it's just slick. So to that, I kind of would have liked something on there. I'm actually, to be perfectly frank, I'm probably gonna put something on there. Like I'll probably do like a real thin bead of clear silicone on it, just so it's grippy to me. But again, like, I mean, yes, I'm nitpicking,
I think they don't have a whole lot of resistance either, at least on the mod wheel. It's like,
yeah, no, I wouldn't. So we got M Wilson in here saying mod it, double-sided tape. No, I wouldn't do it that, because that would just be like really, one, it would be too bulky, and two, it just wouldn't look good. What I would do is literally, I would either do like a little bit of plastic dip or just a small bead of silicone and then spread it evenly across it. And it would be, you wouldn't even be able to see it, and it would feel great. So that's probably what I'll do.
In contrast, I don't care about that.
Exactly. So one person's nitpick might be somebody else's like, are you serious?
Yeah, because I didn't. What's funny is I didn't notice it until you mentioned it. Now I'm like, oh, yeah, it is. I guess it could be, but I didn't notice it while I was in my initial play. So I guess it wouldn't bother me much in the long term.
So is the knob a push button is a question that we're getting here. No, it's not. This knob right here is not a push button knob.
That would be
what
cool.
else? So the Keybed, I love the Keybed. To me, the Keybed feels, if you've ever played an Ultra Nova, the Keybed feels very similar to the Ultra Nova Keybed, and the Ultra Nova Keybed I love. It's for how cheap that synthesizer is, the Ultra Nova Keybed is surprisingly good. So don't hate on the Ultra Nova or the DeepMind Keybed, because it's nice.
I'll tell you that I don't think I've ever played an Ultra Nova, but of all the synth action keyboards that I've played, and I'm gonna reach over in a second and push around the P6 keyboard. But on this one, there's something about it that I like, the spring back that it has, and it's something about the action that just kind of feels. It's not heavy, but it's almost like a light semi-weighted, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? And it could be more about the spring back that happens. It's just a really good action. This is one of the better keyboards out there as far as the Keybed goes.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think what other Keybeds you can compare it to, like the Novation SL series. It's kind of like that. So it has like a nice, it's not too tight. Like I had the Moog Sub Fatty right above it. The Moog Sub Fatty, which I do like the Keybed on it. It just is a very different feel. It's a very tight Keybed. It has a very strong spring action to it. I like that. It's not as heavy as that, but it's also much heavier than, say, the Matrix Brute and Keylab Keybed, which to me, the Keylab and Matrix Brute Keybed is a little on the light side for me. It's definitely workable, but it's just a little bit light to me. Another thing is, and we're getting back to wiggling, the keys don't have a lot of wiggle to them at all. They, like, the fit of the keys is very tight, and I like that a lot. I really don't like keys that wobble around a lot.
Yeah, the Prophet 6 one, I think if it's a shootout between the two Keybeds, Prophet 6-1 wins, but then obviously it's like a $3,000 keyboard, right? But still,
it does have aftertouch.
Yeah, it does have aftertouch, but this keyboard feels pretty good. It comes pretty close. It's a lighter action than, say, like Prophet 6. So, but still, it feels almost like the spring back feels good. It's a very good action.
I'm just gonna say this now. I'm trying to type it, but my hand keeps getting in the way and it's irritating me. Dilliot, you got my info on Facebook. If you want to join in and get your mic and whatnot, hop on in. Just hit me up on Facebook, man, and I'll send you the link. So Dilliot is a excellent keyboard player and YouTuber as well. So I just want to send a shout out to him. Definitely check out his channel because he does like lots of really cool beat remakes and does some cool stuff like he does a lot of stuff with like talk boxing and that kind of stuff, which is always good too. I dig all that stuff. Yeah, another thing about this, the buttons on here. Let's talk about the actual button feel and how the fit and finish is on them. The reason why I want to bring this up is because this was questionable in the Sonic State review, and I'm a big Sonic State fan also. But they talked about how when you press on the buttons, it looked like the faders would move because it was an early prototype that they were messing with. That no longer is the case. Mine is a tool-made sample, but it is like it's basically a production. You know, this is the right before production run. So this is as close to an actual production as you're going to get before they actually hit stores. And yeah, it's rock solid there. Like, you know, you could press on it really hard and then you'll see the whole thing will kind of flex, but that's about it. The metal on here is still real solid. Let me see. Feels kind of similar to the metal on the Keylab. I have the Keylab Black next to me. The wood ends are still really nice, just like they were at KnobCon. So Jonathan P is asking about menu navigation, and this is something that Corey and I were kind of talking about. It is so understand that the last project that I just recently did was sound design for the Matrix Brute. Okay. And what that means is quite literally, there's no menus at all on the Matrix Brute. Like everything is knob per function. Everything is right there. So I'm a bit spoiled. So it was kind of like it's kind of polar. Like these two keyboards could not be any more opposite from each other. This does have some menu diving. It's not terrible. For instance, I'm gonna let me adjust this camera. I want to show some of the menu diving, and then you guys can kind of decide how you feel about it. Okay. Let's say I want to start an initialize patch because I'm a sound designer. I like to initialize everything I do. Program compare. And now you have an initialized default program. So it says default program here. Let me see if I can kind of adjust this even better. Oh, there we go. Bourbon. All right, there we go. Okay, so I think you can kind of see it there. Hopefully it's not too grainy. This webcam kind of sucks, so just deal with it. If anybody wants to send me a better webcam, you can do that. So, all right. So again, initializing a patch, all we're doing is hitting program and compare, and then we're at an initialized patch. And let's say you want to go into your effects, you would press effects, right? And then say I want to, so I'm pressing up and down, you know, the first thing that I'm on here, this right here would be my routing. If I turn this, also another, I'm sidetracking myself here, but another thing about this is when you turn this knob, I saw some comments about, oh, that's a lot of knob turning. No, you don't have to do a lot of knob turning. There's a fader right next to it as well that does the same thing as turning this, and you can do it this way as well. Matter of fact, I'll try and keep the camera like this. Let me, how's that, people? Is that sexy? All right, so we can just do it like that. And so if I want to add an effect, let's say, hold on, here's dry, and I'm going to bring in my Okay, so that's dry. All right, let's add some effects. Reverb. So this is a TC Electronics reverb. All right. If you want to now edit this effect, this is where we really get into the menu diving. I'm going to press the effects button again. All right. Let me move this up a little bit so you can see it. So I'm going to press this. And now we're in the TC Deep Reverb. You've got these 5 knobs here. All right. And you can scroll between those knobs by pressing left and right. And then both the fader and this knob will assign to that. All right. The little indicators of these knobs, it has an abbreviation on them, but then down below, it actually tells you, like it actually writes it out in long form what it is. So you can see that this reverb, here's the other crazy thing. There's 9 reverbs in this unit. And then just this one reverb has 9 reverbs inside of that.
That's so dope.
So it's kind of ridiculous. But so I'm on preset church. I'm going to turn it once. Preset gate.
And the knob soft clicks from one selection to the next.
Yeah. They're detented, right?
Yeah,
Is that the right term? Yeah, detented
Yeah,
knobs. So lo-fi. Modulated.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Plate. Room. Spring. Tile. Default. So these are all just types like of algorithms of reverbs. And then I can go left and right and I can adjust decay, tone, pre-delay, mix, right? And then if I hit effects again, I go back to my main screen, and then I can hit effects again, and I'm back to the assigning of what effects are on what channel.
Hey, let me interject there.
Yeah.
In relation to this, somebody asked me about the effects if they can be destinations in the mod matrix, and I just looked at it. Yeah, they can. That's one of the
they absolutely can. So there's some plus and minuses to the mod matrix. Mod matrix has a crap ton of sources and destinations. However, there's only 8 actual modulation slots that you can assign. Okay. But there's a caveat to that because some of those destinations are all, meaning like all of this group of thing, or like, you know, affecting all your oscillators or this or that. And the reason why I bring that up is because in comparison to something like the Prophet 12, you know, there's more slots there, but less destinations on it. But the way that you assign things is different as well. So it's surprising how deep the DeepMind 12 is, which it's like, I keep coming back to the name and you're like, oh, okay. It's such a weird name. But the more you mess with it,
right?
I don't mind the name. It makes me wish I was, you know, young and had no responsibilities and could take drugs.
Did they talk to Google before coming up with that name?
Right? Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, right. Well, you know what? I remember us talking, Kim, when we heard the name of it, and I literally said, nope, I'm not calling it that. DM12 from now on out, or I'm just going to nickname it.
And this would not be the first product that we've done that.
Right, that's true. So, it's been so long now, though. It's just common. It feels right.
I think one of the first ones that we used to do that to was the beat thing.
Yeah, of course.
We used to call it the BT.
That's
the BT1 is what we used to call it because we refused to call it a beat thing, and really even the what was the Little Fatty? I remember like a lot of people refused to call it Little Fatty because it just sounded ridiculous. But which was also ridiculous that the original name for this thing was the Fat 12, which is also ridiculous. Yeah. So it's like, come on. But
you don't like a little really fatty?
Yeah, I don't really mind. I mean, so like there's a few names out there for synths that are cool, but like then there's a lot of names out there for synths that just have like no no inspiration. Like Prophet 12. Come on. How many prophets are you going to come out with, dude? Start naming your synth something else. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I'm like, they share so little these days. It's like, come on, do something, you know, be a little creative with your naming. I don't care. I like it. I like the fact that he called the drum machine the Tempest. I love that name. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I like names like that because like, so I think it's time out for things like robotic type of names, XP12T, you know what I mean, and weird stuff like that. So I'm glad they're not doing that. But yeah,
I don't want them to start doing like Lexus naming and that kind of thing.
yeah, exactly. Car models and stuff.
Yeah, I don't need that either, but you know, to me, I don't mind the DeepMind 12 name. I think it's quirky and it got people talking, and isn't that kind of the point? So it's like, not a big deal to me.
And once you see how deep it is, though, it kind of like, oh well, it works.
It does. It does. Hold on, I'm just checking my Facebook just to make sure I'm not missing Dilliot if he tries to come in here. So yeah, excuse me. We were asked about the envelope snappiness. So let me take the reverb off because that would obviously that would kind of cause an issue. Oh, here he is. Hold on, he's hitting me up now. I guess my computer is being interesting. I'll say that. So hold on, let me just send him this link. Oh, wrong link. Sorry, that's the wrong link. Don't worry about that one. Hold on, I gotta send you the right one. Okay. And here it comes.
I think it's going to take me a minute to get used to the octave buttons, because I keep reaching for the buttons that are right above the octave LEDs.
I'm gonna kind of back this up a little bit so that I can show the envelopes. We're gonna try and do it like this because my both Google Hangout streaming and because of you know, my webcam crappiness, I'm gonna try and do like tight shots like this. And if you guys don't like the camera angle or something, just say something and I'll try and adjust it.
That's fine.
You know, this is totally live, so you know. So let's go ahead, and the way the envelopes work, first off, is here we have VCA, VCF, mod. Okay. What I'm going to do right now is I have VCA is all the way down. So we got nothing, right? Let's bring decay up just a little bit so we can get the snappiness of it. Now, I'm also going to say, I'm sorry, I'm still getting over this cough. I've had it for 6 weeks now.
Okay.
The other thing about this is you can adjust the curves of these envelopes. So the envelopes are not
linear.
Yeah. Well, you can have them be linear, you can have them be exponential, and you can have them be like all kinds of weird curves in between that. I'll be honest and say, because I've only had it for so short a time, I have not messed with that at all, and we can explore that tonight and try to figure out how to do it. But I haven't even read that part of the manual, and yes, I have been reading the manual. So let's bring up just the sustain so you can hear that. So yeah, pretty snappy. Oh, and I spoke to Rob, the head engineer for this project the other day, and he says that you can actually turn these into looping envelopes. So let's do that.
That's dope.
So here we go.
Gosh, Steve, who would expect that?
All right, so here's looping envelope. Let me turn this up as loud as I can so that you guys can hear it.
How'd you do that?
Oh, I can't tell you that. You got to read the freaking manual or talk to the head engineer, punk. No, it's so. All I did was press VCA, right? You press it a second time and you get to your envelope screen. Or actually, hold on, is it the first time? Yeah, it's first time.
The first time.
So anyway, I only pressed it once. And it says VCA envelope trigger,
Key.
and you just turn the knob until it says
Oh,
loop.
I see. Yeah, you can go LFO, loop, sequence. Dope.
So it goes up into audio rate, really.
Can that be synced?
Are you saying sync to pitch?
Sync the loop.
Like a quarter note, eighth note. Repeat.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, the Sub 37 does that.
That's a good question. I don't see that right now. I don't.
The sequence option for that same. You know, you can set it.
Yeah,
LFO.
you know what? You might be
sequence.
able to do that through the mod matrix on here. I don't know. That's a good question. Corey, why don't you start digging into yours and figure that out? We got asked by Marco about the iPad integration, and I mentioned earlier on in here, we don't have the iOS app yet. That's supposed to go live soon. And also Rob is saying they better make a desktop variant. I'm about 98% sure that the desktop is going to happen. So I do think that's going to go down. And I'm crossing my fingers. Hopefully I'll be involved in the sound design of that project as well.
So we deal with the iPad integration. Is Wi-Fi talk out of the question as far as the synthesizer right now, or?
So the Wi-Fi is there, like it's functional on the unit that I have. I just don't have the app for it.
Okay, gotcha.
And what's up, Dilliot?
What's up?
Hold on, let me click on you so that people can see you. So this is Dilliot. I highly recommend. What's your YouTube channel? YouTube
channel is Dillio T2K, Dillio T2K.
There you go. So I've known him for a good long while through the YouTubes of the interwebs. So he's got some dope videos. So I recommend checking it out.
Good to meet you.
Lost my train of thought. I'm trying to read the chat here because we're getting questions on there too. Where are we at here? Oh, so they were asking about is it analog with digital control? Yes, that's exactly what it is. So the oscillators are DCO oscillators, meaning digitally controlled analog oscillators. Okay. With that being said, it's closely what's the word? Closely inspired by the Juno 106, and because of that, the DCO is one main DCO and then a second DCO, but it's kind of weird because the second DCO is actually kind of more powerful than the first, or at least in a different way, and it's weird, man. So let me go back to an initialized patch. And I just want to show some stuff with the oscillator here. So when I have this, there's no mixer. There's just a level amount for the second, right? So your first DCO is always going to be at a specific level, unless you adjust VCA of that, okay? But the second DCO has its own level control. So, for instance, just the saw wave, right? And then you have saw N square, and then just square, and then here is DCO2, right? And then, of course, you can adjust the tuning of each oscillator, like the foot depth of it.
Right.
Let me see here. I'm getting another question on here. It does have Juno model course in here. It's got actually multiple different courses in here. So I'll talk about that again later. But so back to the oscillators, though. You can have both saw and square on DCO1 on at the same time to get an interesting, waveform. And then, of course, for my Nick Bat fans out there, get ready for it. It's about to happen. It's about to go down. Some pulse width modulation for the homies.
So it does do pulse width modulation.
Yes, it does do pulse width modulation quite easily. For instance, So, and then you also have pitch mod, which is here, which is basically just sending it to the LFO, and then very smooth.
Yeah,
Now,
that is really smooth.
quick question about your DSO oscillators. Now,
Yeah.
selection of waveform, is it just sawtooth and a square, or is there any more options beyond those two?
No, that's it. So
Oh,
it's
that's it.
sawtooth, square,
second
sawtooth
DCO
and
is just
square
square.
combined, and then on the second one is where things get a little bit different. Okay, so the
Okay.
second one, if I bring that up, all right, let me shut off the first one. So the second one, you have tone mod, and it kind of reminds me of on the micro brute how you had the sub oscillator and you could
Yeah.
turn up the fifth.
The stuff
It's kind of
fifth.
like that. So it's like this pulse width and kind of
Sounds
sure
like wave folding.
no, I wouldn't say that. I'd say it's bringing in a harmonic. It's like
It definitely is bringing in some extra harmonics. You can see what it's doing. It's kind of in the screen, which is cool for the screen to be able to see that.
something about the screen that I want to note also is that so these are graphic displays of what's happening in the synth, but it's not actual oscilloscope of the synth. However, I ran calibration last night, and when you run calibration, they actually do have an oscilloscope of what's going on in the synth. They decided that, and he mentioned this on the interview that I did. If you guys are interested in seeing a long form interview with the actual creators of the synthesizer, check out Synth Summit show with Midas and DeepMind. You know, whatever. You guys are smart with the Googles. Anyway, he mentioned that they didn't want to actually put a full-on oscilloscope display on here at all times because it would just eat up too many CPU cycles, and they would rather put it towards effects and other things. So that's what they did. Now back to the tone mod and pitch on here. So tone mod, you can also adjust pitch. Whereas the other way to handle your pitch would be you go into edit, and the first time you hit edit, you're editing oscillator 1. And then the second time you hit edit, you're editing oscillator 2. So you can go 4, 8, or 12, or 4, 8, or 16 foot. And then you can select your pitch mod source, which it defaults at LFO 1. You can change that. LFO 2, envelope 1, envelope 2, envelope 3, LFO 1 unison, LFO 2 unison. That's your options there. You can do aftertouch. So I can do it like this. Here, actually, I'll use my slider here. Now my let me actually do it like this. Do envelope 3. And I'm going to set envelope 3 up how I want it to just sustain. So now I'm doing aftertouch.
Is that monophonic or polyphonic after?
It should be monophonic. Let's
Okay.
find out.
All right.
Yeah, that's monophonic.
Gotcha.
Why did my screen just go blank? Hold on. I didn't lose you guys, right?
No, we're still reading you.
We're still here.
Okay, that's weird.
I remember I saw there'd be a little bit of latency between your movement and the sound, but you know, internet. But we still got visual. Okay, looks like I think Flux is resetting the broadcast, coming back in. So we're just going to bear with that.
But we lost that. So we're
Yeah.
probably going to have to restart it.
Okay. Yeah, I see. I might also take a look at the chat. I see Mitch just subscribed. Glenn's going in on the chat. And I'm quite sure Flux will
Smack
bring you
my
some.
pitch up.
Right. Marco, I see you're talking about some filter sweeps. I'm quite sure Flux will definitely get to that. I'm quite sure he's gonna make his way there. Go ahead.
So there was somebody that asked, how's the quality, what the quality is like. And I like I said, I actually have it sitting here. It's just the way my camera is angled. I can't really show it. But the quality is much more solid than I think everybody would have imagined, right? Just due to the history,
right?
or like what the
rep.
Who was it that, yeah, the rep, right? So I will say it's solid. It's full wood. The thing has some weight. It feels like they really put some good engineering into it. The only thing there is the little bit of wiggle that the faders have.
Gotcha.
And as we said, that's probably because of the stems are a little longer, and there's a little bit of gap between the fader cap and the faceplate, so it gives a little bit. However, the ARP Odyssey has worse wiggle than these sliders, right? So and that's Korg. If not the same, but I think the ARP is probably it has a little more sway in it on those faders. But the only thing I could say, I mean, it's full metal, it's wood. The keybed is really solid. Like I said, it doesn't. The Prophet 6 feels a little better than it, actually quite a bit better. But I still say this is up there, quite far up there. There's because there's some pretty expensive boards out there that the keys do not feel so great. The action on this is pretty dope.
Right.
It has nice spring back, and I guess time will tell. But from what I can see right now, this is a pretty solid build. I don't think they took any shorts. I think they're really working hard to kind of, lose that old reputation of shoddy work. Plus, I don't know what the involvement was of Midas on the other things. Now, Midas did a lot of the mixed boards and all that. And I think that's when the quality started going up. And, this is really a Midas baby for Behringer. So the quality is pretty good, man. I'll give you my honest opinion on that. I think the only thing that you probably, I'm keeping the P6. Somebody's asked, I'm definitely gonna keep the P6. I'll tell you, one of the things that I kept reaching out to Pete and Rob about, I was like, thanks, at KnobCon, I went to, me and Ken got a chance to play the DeepMind 12 at KnobCon. And then when I came back home, I don't have a DeepMind 12 and I'm messing with my Prophet 6. The Prophet 6 is simple in terms of modulation.
Right.
That said, I mean, it's just, it sounds incredible. And then it has the polymod. Now, the polymod is where things get really dope, like straight up and down. Things get really dope with the polymod. You could do all kinds of stuff that you would just never imagine being able to do otherwise. And creating all kinds of LFOs and sending things all kinds of places. And really, like with the polymod, you can, engage LFOs and be modulating the oscillator, I think my Oscillator 2, but it's polymod because you're actually modulating each key in a chord as you play the chords. So it's a really beautiful wavy thing that starts to happen when you get into the polymod on a P6. So that's a very characteristic thing. And then plus it's such a rich voice. This, on the other hand, is very different than that. It has a ton of modulation sources and destinations. And the fact that you can actually set the effects as destinations.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like there's something that's real fresh about that.
How does it feel?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, how does it feel to crank out like a key-based bass line or crank out a nice synth line on or lead lines on it? How does it feel to you? Does it keep up?
I think it keeps up. It tracks pretty well.
Okay.
And I'll be honest though, like I'm much more of a programmer than a player. Like I sequence things all day. So I would be interested to see what you think because you're more